Okay, you're here for the team, so let's jump right in. This is the first no Singelica one-shot team. It features General Purgus. Now, General Purgus, you don't need a ton of bulk. Like most G-Purg teams, we're mostly worried about him doing a little bit of chip damage at the start. You can have the dual attack chance on, nice little bonus if it happens. You want him to be strong enough to take a hit, which isn't hard with G-Purg. You need him to be one of the faster units on the team, and I gave him a 100% crit chance just to assist with clearing the stage 1 mobs. If you don't need the assistance clearing the stage 1 mobs, his crit chance doesn't matter. Gave him the CR pushing artifact, and I'm put him on the super duper water shooter predominantly because it gives a boost to effectiveness for the rest of the team, which lowers some stat requirements. You could easily run Warhorn for even more damage for the team if you don't need the effectiveness boost. Note that Karen's imprint is on, giving 15% crit chance to the back row, and that's why we can run 70% crit chance on Clarissa. Clarissa needs to be strong enough to clear the first wave mobs. Now, if I had 10% more damage here and 25% more damage here, it would be a lot easier. But I don't, so that's part of why G-Purg's on crit chance to help with the assist. Having her on Daydream Joker helps with the Wyvern stage, but really you might want to try her on a damage artifact like Tonfa or Portrait to be able to help clear the stage 1 mobs. DDJ is not as high of a value there. 59 effectiveness plus the 10 from Water Shooter gets us above the 65 effectiveness threshold. Next is Karen. Karen is my primary or my secondary DPS. Notice I'm missing 30% damage on her S3 and 10% damage on her S2. You can be a much lower gear threshold if you have this unit molded. DDJ is important for her to do damage. You want her to be 65% effectiveness. She needs to be the second slowest unit on the team. As long as she is slower than Clarissa, that's all that really matters. She's at 90% of crit chance. She only needs 85, so we're more than covered there. And last is our finishing unit, Sigrid. I've got Sigrid on a rage set. It's a pretty solid rage set, but again, I'm making up for the fact that I don't have Mola in Karen. She doesn't need effectiveness. The EE doesn't matter because we're not using any of her skills but her S3. You do want her on Daydream Joker for the damage. Here's how the team works. General Purgus does his S3. This gives everybody an attack buff. Clarissa is the first unit to go after G-Purg. She kills the back row snake, triggering her extra attack, which kills the front row snakes. The Wyvern smashes into General Purgus, pushing the entire team up, ensuring that everybody gets a shot. There's a 20 or a 35 to 50% chance that Clarissa defense breaks, so that helped with damage. Karen S2s, which is an 85% chance to defense break, then she S3s for additional damage, putting on the 2 bleeds due to her EE, and then Sigurd comes along and clears the fight. Now you might be saying, you only got a one-shot out of this because Clarissa defense broke. And you're right, but not totally right. Notice that Karen defense breaks, and then she does her S3. Exterminating. And it does a chunk of damage. When Sigurd does her S3, it doesn't quite kill. It would have killed if I had Mola in Karen's S3 and S2. It definitely would have killed. But instead, I have to do 2 more hits to finish the Wyvern off. It's still... we'll call it a 1.5 shot if you don't quite have the gear on Sigurd for the kill or you don't have the Mola in your Karen. So that's team number 1. Team number 2 comes to you courtesy of Drac. Hoyoyo. His socials are in the description of the video. This is kind of a brilliant little team. DN is going to be our frontliner. You want DN to have the fastest speed on the team, but not so fast that she cuts on round 1. We need to make sure that her S2 goes off in the Wyvern phase. Her S3 going off in phase 1's our source of attack buff. Gave her Warhorn to help her cut in phase 2. You want 200% effect resistance so that she is able to get her S2 off during the Wyvern phase. 180 speed I found was kinda key. You want her as close to Clarissa as possible. She gets a 50% CR push from her S3 plus another 15 from Warhorn, so that's why you want to make sure she's as close to Clarissa as possible. If she cuts during phase 1 and does her S2 there, then you're not going to have a clean phase 2. Clarissa, I've got her slow, 143 speed. She is the third fastest unit at that slow speed. I did that to focus the gear into her damage. I put her on Portrait of the Saviors because without General Purgus from the last round doing some damage to phase 1, I needed Portrait to be able to clear the snakes. Again, I'm missing a ton of damage on her. If you mola her S2 and S3, this is a lot more clean. You want her on the EE that boosts her damage. Next is Karen. She is our principal defense breaker. Same Karen from the last fight. 85% crit chance, 65% effectiveness is the threshold. I've got her on the S3 EE that gives bleeds, though it's not really necessary. Daydream Joker for damage. Again, if I mola these skills, it would reduce her gear requirement quite a bit on her as well as on Alexa because, hey, that's a ton of damage I'm missing out on. Next, we're using Alexa because a Wyvern's natural enemy is volleyballs, it seems. I put her on a solid rage set. She's got 86% crit chance. She really only needed 70 with the crit chance boost from Karen, but that's just where the gear landed. Just make a hard-hitting Alexa as you can. She's basically doing the same thing as Sigrid was doing in the prior rounds. Daydream Joker for the damage. At the start of the fight, DN uses her S3. You'll notice the 50% CR push takes her to the halfway mark, and these 3 snakes attack, triggering Warhorn, which pushes her up another 15%. See how she almost cuts Clarissa. That's why you gotta have her as close to Clarissa as possible in speed, so that Clarissa gets to go next. Clarissa clears the snakes, and this ensures that DN gets to use her S2 at the start of the Wyvern fight. Because of her effect resistance, she doesn't get pushed back. She uses her S2, which pushes up our units. We got a defense break off of Clarissa. Karen rolls in, applies her damage and bleeds. And the fight's finished off by Alexa's S3. Now, I'm sure just like the last fight, you're saying, hey, you can't rely on a defense break from Clarissa. That's only a 35 to 50% chance to defense break, depending on Mola. And that's true. So here's the fight again with Clarissa missing the defense break. No defense break. Karen applies her defense break. Now remember, I'm missing 30% damage on this S3, so if you mola her S3, you probably take the snake down another 20% on his health. But because I was missing that mola, I leave the Wyvern with just a little tiny bit of health left, so we have to go around the corner and one-shot it with Clarissa. So I think this is a more accessible one-shot than the first team because you don't need Molagora to build your Alexa, but either of them would work. Just mola out your Karen if you're going to go with this team. I'm being stingy and not wanting to waste my mola on a unit that I'm not currently using. For our next semi-one-shot team, the classic Ian version. This isn't the cleanest one-shot, but if you don't have G-Perg or DN, this is what I got for you for now. Ian needs to be 65% effectiveness to help him land the target on Song of Stars, and he needs to be one of the 2 fastest units. It doesn't matter if he's first or second as long as he's fast. He needs to be tanky. This is about as low on the tankiness as you can go and survive. He needs to be able to survive 3 hits from the Wyvern. Put him on Song of Stars for additional chance to target and to boost our damage. Next is Ross. You'll notice my Ross is faster. Yours doesn't have to be. As long as he is one of the 2 fastest units, that's all that matters. 65% effectiveness because he is one of the sources of defense break for us. I put him on 100% crit chance to assist with clearing stage 1. and I got him on Warhorn just for additional damage. We're going to run Bologna this time to change it up. You certainly can run Clarissa just in the same place as Bologna. She would work as well. You need her slower than Ras and Ian, but faster than the snakes. I think about 180-ish is as low as you'll want to go on speed. If you've got a plus 30 Rangar's Drink, that's more effective. I didn't want to use it on my Wyvern Bologna, so I've got her on a different artifact. And our classic Rem to finish it off. All Rem needs is 85% crit chance and all the damage you can give her. Health, defense, speed, none of that matters. You turn Rem's skills off, and here's how the fight works. Ras does his S3, which is predominantly there just to do a little bit of chip damage to the snakes. Ian does his little bit of chip damage to the snake, and this allows Bologna to get her S3 off. Now, if it was Clarissa, it would kill by now. But since it's not Clarissa, we take a couple of hits, and Bologna does her S2, which finishes the snakes off. In stage 1, Ian gets pushed back. I get a lucky dual attack from Rem. Doesn't really change the outcome of the fight, though. Ras S2s, applies defense break. Rem S2s, and S2s again. Or S1s, I should say. We get a target debuff either from Bologna or from Ian. This triggers Bologna's extra attack. Ras just wastes an S1, and Rem finishes the fight. As you can see, we way overkill, so that the extra dual attack at the beginning, or not dual attack, but counter attack at the beginning didn't change the outcome of the fight. But I know Ras's defense break is 60%, so like in previous videos, here's what happens when Ras doesn't stick his defense break. So no defense break from Ras, but we get the defense break from Rem, and another hit from Rem. Don't get the target from either of them. So if we had gotten a target debuff, this would have been an even cleaner run. Bologna S2s, that's yet another chance for a defense break. Oh, we got the target. Okay, we got it after all from a lucky dual attack, but as you can see, as long as one of the two targets landed from the earlier hits, we easily clear it, even with Ras missing the defense break. So there you go. 3 Wyvern one-shot teams without Singelica.